if I might, I'm going to stand up. I don't have a formal PowerPoint presentation for you because I don't want to distract you with pictures. What are you afraid of? Have you thought about what you're afraid of? I heard a discussion in our working group either yesterday or day before. I've lost track of time with jet lag. A discussion between two polar opposites about who's in charge in the middle of a disaster. And I was astonished to hear that discussion because if you respond to a disaster, if you're an outsider coming in, whether you're an NGO coming in to help someone, or you're an outside international organization coming in to help someone, or you are just a typical responder, don't you need to know who's in charge? If you don't know who's in charge, then how do you know who's making decisions? If you don't know who's in charge, how do you know to turn to knock down the bureaucratic obstacles that'll keep you from accomplishing whatever it is that your goal is? Here's the discussion I heard in the working group that I think epitomizes our failure to go from, and look, my brain works on a strategic level. My neurons, for some reason, are connected together strategically. But I think what we're doing is we're failing, even though we're probably all strategic thinkers, we're failing to get down to the tactical level. Here's the discussion that I heard yesterday. Well, when we have a disaster here, the mayor's in charge. On the opposite side of the table, I heard, but your mayor's probably, the mayor in my town is just this goober that's been there for, 25, 30 years or generations. He has no authority. He has no expertise. He just happened to either get there through lineage or some sort of election that made him the mayor. Well, as I listened to that dichotomy, I thought to myself, well, whether the mayor is an idiot or the mayor is the most top expert in the field of emergency management, he's probably likely in charge for one very simple reason. Because people assume that he is. Because he is the political leader that the public is looking to. How do we resolve that dichotomy? How do we resolve the attitude that the people on the ground, the people who are actually responding, are the ones that make the decisions and that actually make things happen? Does a mayor save anybody's life? Does a mayor take anybody off a rooftop? Does a mayor take anyone out of a swift water rescue and put them on dry land? Does a mayor take anybody out of a burning building? I have yet to see a mayor do that. I've seen lots of mayors like to claim that they can do that, but none that actually do. Yet for some reason we look at the mayors, and I'm just using the mayor as an example. It could be a prime minister. It could be a secretary of Homeland Security. It could be the secretary of the Home Office. It could be any number. There's a plethora of different offices that we all have in our minds right now. So it could be any of those. I'm just using the mayor as an example. But the mayor is imbued with legitimacy because that's who the people look to in their times of crisis for leadership. So now how do we take that persona of leadership and make it effective? You need to, whether that mayor is serving a 4-year term or an 8-year term or however long it is, you need to integrate that mayor into your disaster response system. Would you not agree? They need to understand what it is you do, how you do it, why you do it. Can we all agree on that? So that when they're called upon to make a strategic decision that's going to affect the tactics down here, they have a baseline of knowledge by which to make that decision. Now make a great leap with me. Make a very large leap. From the mayor in your community to the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of South Korea. And the proverbial you-know-what has hit the fan. It is going to, we have a phrase, it's going to hell in a handbasket. It's really turning ugly. In either the United States, it's a 9/11 attack, it's Hurricane Katrina, it's whatever you want to imagine. Or let's take it to South Korea. It's the floods in Seoul, or there's a massive earthquake, or there's been a huge oil spill. Both countries are struggling, trying to figure out what to do. If we have failed to inform the president and the prime minister of what their roles are, how can we ever expect those at the tactical level to cooperate? Here's what I mean. I'll give you a quick example. From 2002 until 2005, I worked diligently to create a mutual aid agreement, a cooperative agreement between the United States, FEMA, and the Russian Emercom. Finally sat down and we had a grand ceremony. We sat in some grand palace and executed the documents, and it was wonderful. We can boast, oh, look what great work we've done. The first time that we started to do anything under that agreement, guess what both sides did? We put on demonstrations. We simply demonstrated for guys at my level, at the cabinet and sub-cabinet level. We put on a demonstration. The Emercom showed us all of their equipment and what great work it can do. Then the Russians came to the United States and we put on a demonstration. We showed them all of our great equipment and what it can do. And then we all went home. Shortly thereafter, the Russians faced the Beslan attack. The Russians then faced I forget the name of the theater, where the Chechens, I think, took all the people hostage in the theater. Where's my Russian representative in the room? Does he remember what it was? Anyway, there was a theater where they took all these hostages in the theater. The next thing I know, Minister Shoigu from Emercom is calling me about, do you have any advice? Well, yeah, I can give you advice all day long. I can give you advice for days on end. Mr. Shoigu did not need advice. He needed technical assistance. And oftentimes we take the term technical assistance and we think about, well, we'll provide technical assistance because we will, the Americans, big Americans, we'll ship somebody over, we'll send an expert, and they'll spend 2 or 3 days providing technical assistance, then they'll come home, nothing else happens. I want you to imagine something greater than that. A news reporter asked me on, maybe it was Monday or Tuesday of this week, if I thought my proposal was realistic, and I said I think that it is, because I think the people that are in charge of disasters really want to see this happen. Here's my proposal. How about instead of a mutual agreement between two countries, like Russia's Emercom and America's, US's FEMA, what if instead we had an actual exchange of teams? What if instead we actually took a team of urban search and rescue members from one of the task forces in the United States and embedded that in Emercom for a year? For a year. And vice versa, we took one of Emercom's teams and embedded it in the United States for a year. So that during the normal course of business, that Emercom team might be out fighting a regular fire. They might be doing the regular things day in and day out. They would soon learn. Emercom would soon learn what authority a mayor has. The American counterparts in Russia would soon learn exactly what sort of authority and power Minister Shoigu has. They would learn the culture. They would learn the language. They would learn how those teams operate on a day-to-day basis. Now, people are going to argue, oh my gosh, it's going to cost us so much money, and all the, with the global economy the way it is right now, we're strapped. Really? If you have the swapping of the teams other than the typical housing costs or the cost of feeding that team for a year and what they do on their downtime, that kind of exchange is done all the time in educational systems. How many in this room were ever an exchange student in school? Ever went to a foreign country and spent a year studying abroad? Here's why I think that's important. We come to these conferences and we have, how much time do we spend discussing mayor? We spend a good 5 minutes discussing the mayor. I'm going to pick on my friend Tom. With all due respect to Tom, He probably, and I'll pick on myself too, because I don't have a clue about this question either. I don't know what the mayor of Seoul's authority is. I don't know what, from either traditional or a legal point of view, his authority is. He may be the most powerful person in terms of disaster. He may be able to make the kinds of snap decisions that need to be made, but Tom and I don't know that. By the same token, my guess is many of you wouldn't know what kind of authority I would have as the Undersecretary of Homeland Security and what kind of authority and decisions I can make. You may have that vision that it's here, yet I can take you to Hurricane Katrina and show you the decisions that I made here that were never implemented. We don't have an understanding at that very basic level of how the two countries operate, or any two countries operate. And until we do, at a very tactical level, learn that, how can we have international cooperation? We can agree, yes, we can continue to do the things that we have always done. The United States, the USS Lincoln will show off the shores of Banda Aceh, and we will fly Black Hawk helicopters doing sorties all day long, putting supplies wherever they need to go. That's great, that's good. Intercom will call us for technical assistance, and we'll provide them advice. That's great. But how about the time when, and I go back to 9/11 because that anniversary is coming up. I go back to the time that I am offered urban search and rescue teams, earthquake, rubble teams from Japan and South Korea and Israel to come to the United States and help us at ground zero, and we turn them down. We turn them down because we've not done the pre-preparation of knowing how to integrate those teams into our system. And just like the Japanese said to Tom when he went to Japan, you must be self-sufficient, you must be able to survive on your own, do everything without any impact at all once you land. Well, what if Tom and Shelterbox had been able to fully integrate into that system? What if American rescue teams, urban search and rescue teams, had been able to fully integrate into that system because they had spent the year before truly integrating, not doing demonstrations, not showing all the great equipment, but literally living day to day the life of rescue teams in different nations? Then we could have true cooperative agreements. Then we could have the true intermeshing of teams when disaster strikes. I think that's what we need to do. That's real cooperation. This conference will establish a baseline that says we want to accomplish something like this. Then what we have to do is take this platitude, this objective, this kind of goal, and agree somehow at the very bureaucratic civil service level, do that integration. Otherwise, the strategic will never have the impact on the tactical level. Thank you.